Welcome to the Team Teach podcast. I'm Claire, and in each episode you'll find me talking with an expert guest to learn more about behaviour. We squeeze a lot into each episode. You'll listen to the latest thinking in behaviour, continue your professional development with our book recommendation, and then I'll send you away with 3 practical tips you can use in your setting. I'm joined today by Dave Smallwood, esteemed co-host of the podcast, so you'll recognise his voice. And today we're talking about pre-escalation. You all right, Dave?
Hi, Claire. How are you? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. I think that you are often on the podcast, but it would be really useful for a quick intro, I think, to those that don't know you.
Yeah, I'm Dave. I'm a principal trainer for Team Teach. I deliver Team Teach courses around the country, and I enjoy it very much. I do these podcasts with you. I support you a lot on training as well. We work together quite a lot, which is nice. Background is in education, really, primarily with individuals that have a diagnosis of autism. And that's about it, really.
Thanks so much, Dave. And most of you will recognise my voice because I do all of the episodes. But my name's Claire Edmondson and my background's really varied. I've worked in lots of different services. Like Dave, I'm a principal, Team Teach tutor and run these courses across the country. I've worked in education, mental health, some bits of social care. And currently now I am a trained therapist and run therapeutic interventions for autistic individuals and other individuals. So that's me, that's Dave. And we're going to start with that reflective question today. I actually really love doing the reflective question. And I'm going to ask you, Dave, what you wish you knew then that you know now about pre-escalation, the bits before someone is...
It takes me back to when I first started years ago in an autistic setting. And it was my induction. And a wonderful, wonderful person who became my mentor in training, called Liz. And she used to talk about the environment and the impact that an environment can have on individuals. And that was the kind of start of it. And it's these things that we can put into place to reduce anxiety in people and prevent escalation starting. And I found it really, really interesting. Now, I think what happens with us is we have that frame of mind that maybe we're just letting people get away with things, or it might be that we're shielding them from real life. So if we make the environment really low arousal, then that's not reality when they leave the 4 walls. Or if someone is triggered by the word no, and then we reduce the word no in our language, well, that's not realistic, because outside of these 4 walls, people say no. And so the thing from it that I wish I'd known then that I know now is these positive behaviour supports we put in place are there as a kind of shield to start with, whilst we do the hard work to prepare them. So it's not like we make the environment so low arousal to shield them from the real world. It's we do that, and then we start adding bits of more sensory input in, or if we're reducing the word no in our language, we're not doing that forever. But whilst we've reduced that and everybody's working consistently with that strategy, then we do work in building up that resilience to the word no over time. So it's not that we're putting measures in place to shield people from real life. What we're doing is lowering the anxieties so that we can do the work to build that resilience up. And that's it.
Yeah, that's nice. And that's an amazing training course to have early on in your career. Yeah, because as you were saying that, I was thinking back to my kind of reflective thoughts, which were when I was working in a pupil referral unit. I remember really vividly that we focused so much on the escalation bits with the young people that we worked with there. So they were all 11 plus. And we focused so much on the escalation bits. I think it was we just didn't have the foresight to kind of take a breath and actually plan about the bits before. You know, when you're always like chasing your tail and it's just
Yeah.
crisis after crisis after crisis, like you put that fire out, another fire starts. So it was really like that, and not purposefully at all. And no one was intentionally stuck in this kind of crisis cycle. But yeah, I felt as a member of staff there, somewhat, we were caught in the crisis cycle as well, and we couldn't get our thinking brains to switch on and just think, oh, actually, why don't we focus on the pre-escalation, the bits before? Some of that's time pressure, funding, there's loads of things that kind of make it tricky sometimes to spend the time to think about those things. But yeah, I really remember that vividly, and I wish that I'd known then really that the banking on those bits, banking on the pre-escalation bits, really, like you said, Dave, getting that service and that individual to experience something that's a bit more low arousal, so they're in a better state to be able to learn those skills of regulation in a kind of more calm way, that would have made a massive difference. So yeah, now I'm kicking myself, just being like, oh, like the good we could have done.
It would. But we do get stuck in these cycles, and we see it all the time. And I think a lot, a lot of us, and I say us as the people across the sectors in which we work, we're aware of it. It gets really difficult though, doesn't it? When you've got masses of individuals that you're working with. Take a school, for instance. You've got so many students, children in the school. We know we've got to do that planning. We know there's ways of reducing the anxiety and stimulus, but it's difficult when you've got all of these other children around. So I think at the moment, what I'm finding is people are aware of it, but it's only one or two in the class, and everybody else is fine. So to make those adjustments through planning might have not the desired effect on the other children. But we talk about it quite a lot. I think we can and we can make changes to our practices and the environment and approaches that can benefit everybody. It doesn't have to just benefit the one or two. It can benefit everybody. But yeah, just drawing that back. I think going back to as well what you just said is, if we're putting those fires out and we're always just dealing with the larger behaviours, if you like, or the crises, then we're not really helping anyone. We're keeping people safe, but we're not getting anywhere with it. If all we do is put the fire out every single day, then the fire is just going to continue to start burning every day. We have to track back. We have to do all that planning beforehand.
Yeah, and it is so hard when you're in it to sort of, you know, pull yourself out of that cycle. And I did mention, and it's really worth saying, across different sectors, the time pressures, the scrutiny, the maybe funding difficulties. There are a lot of barriers that kind of make investment in time and to be quite proactive feel quite tricky. So I totally hear that as a kind of rebuttal to this idea. But I think I always think about the pre-escalation, the positive behaviour support, the things that we put in place to keep some of our individuals in a really regulated state. I think about that as an investment, and you do get interest back on it. You do see changes. And then I'm questioning myself. This is quite a nerdy kind of thought that I know you'll appreciate, but I'm thinking with this phrase pre-escalation, which I don't think it's used loads, but I'm wondering if in our model we have the stages of the 6 stages of distress, and then towards the end of that model is our restorative bit. But I'm wondering, in the pre-escalation heading we're giving, that the restorative bits and the debrief kind of all fit into this label of pre-escalation. What do you reckon?
So the end is also the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh God, so profound.
Wow. Well, no, but it is true. Something has to happen before you can unpick it and try and find better ways for next time.
Yeah.
So that's the start of our journey. The end of an incident is the start of our behaviour journey. So yeah, it all comes together. That is the start of it. That's where we start planning in the restoration stage.
Yeah.
for next time, because it's probably going to happen again. Um, and that's not to say that we're going to stop it from happening again. It's going to keep happening again. The progress is maybe it doesn't happen as quick. It happens less.
Yeah.
It's not as severe the next time it happens. But yeah, it has to happen at the end. It's like a loop rather than an arch.
Yeah, loop, the kind of behavior loop. I like it. We could do a musical about it, maybe. I don't know. Um, I'm thinking back to bits of training that we do together for adult services, actually. And I remember one of the bits of work that I'm sure they would agree that they've really worked on through having the team teach training has been the pre-escalation bits. Partly because as a service where they have I don't want to say transient isn't the right word, but their sort of caseload varies quite a bit, and you might have drop-in individuals, come in. So it is quite varied, sort of who comes through the door.
Yeah,
And
they very rarely know who's coming through the door, do they? So,
yeah, yeah. So,
so it makes
whereas
that planning difficult.
yeah, and actually the follow-up bit's really difficult. So you have someone that comes into service, they escalate, they show signs of distress, the service regulates them, and then off they go. But then they might not be back in service for, 3, 4 weeks sometimes. And one bit of the work there that I think's been really interesting for us as trainers, probably to see the changes starting to appear, is that the work on the pre-escalation, which is also the restoration bit. So services kind of calling, checking in with the service user afterward to just to see how they are and start that process of restoration. Whereas previously it was waiting quite a long time, maybe quite reactive or didn't happen at all. And so I think like that service in particular really sticks out, where it's been quite a journey for them, I think, of really focusing in on those pre-escalation bits. And I think that they're starting to see the benefits of that somewhat now.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Did you know that you can become a trainer and deliver team teach training to staff within your own organisation? Have the flexibility to choose when, where, and who you deliver your training to throughout the year. Find out more about this cost-effective option on the Team Teach website. So, Dave, we've kind of talked about pre-escalation, and I want to go back to something that you said in the intro bit quite early on about reducing arousal and reducing kind of stress for individuals in services. Have you got some examples of how that's been done well? Because I just think that maybe for the listener hearing some really practical bits, I mean, I guess your example is going to be focused in around autism provisions.
Well, it is, but I think it's one of those things that can benefit everybody.
Yeah.
I go back to my time when I used to work at the National Autistic Society, and I'm not sure if to do the same thing nowadays. But an example of it is every display board in our setting was double backed on specific colours.
Mm-hmm.
So everything on there, all the bits of information or pictures, um, and every display board read from left to right and top to bottom,
Mm-hmm.
like you'd read on a page in a book,
Mm-hmm.
you know, from left to right, top to bottom, every display board. And I think sometimes we might run the risk of it looking a little bit clinical or formal, but it was to reduce the anxiety and make the world a predictable place. I go into a lot of mainstream settings, primary mainstream schools, and they are absolutely just wonderful. Wonderful. You see the display boards, and
Yeah.
you see the things hung up across the ceilings, and you have to duck under pieces of paper and things. And it's amazing. It's great. But for somebody that find it difficult to make sense of the world around them, to have all of that information just everywhere, all higgledy-piggledy, and you've got to try and figure out how to read it before you can read it. Just altering that, and it's a real shame. It sounds like I'm saying don't do these wonderful pieces of artwork on your displays anymore. And I suppose I am really, but I'd prefer to see them. But if we were looking at low arousal and lowering that arousal, just a simple change to that could make quite a big difference. And that's just one example.
Yeah, that environment bit, reducing the kind of, yeah, the visual stimulus, but the other bit is the predictability, isn't it? I used to run team teach courses with a man called Dr. Jamie Gelfin. I really apologize if I've misremembered his surname. And I do remember him talking on courses and talking about certainty and uncertainty. And what you said really reminds me of what what he's previously said on courses, and I think written books about it as well. Um, but those boards, by having that certainty of them being left to right, was it top down, same colors on the background, it is just this really concrete way of creating certainty for individuals in that service. And then creating that certainty reduces anxiety. But then if you think about it in ourselves, when we reduce anxiety, increase certainty, we feel more regulated. But if we also think about the like brain science, although this is kind of, examples which simplifies brain science a lot, but essentially when we're reducing anxiety, the ability for our thinking brain to be switched on, our executive functioning, the frontal lobe to be switched on is much higher. So for individuals that are having that predictability and that certainty sort of done for them, like you don't have to do anything, it's just done, then actually someone's in a more regulated state, executive functioning switched on. And so those bits that you were saying at the beginning, like that makes it so much easier, doesn't it? Because the person can receive it because they're already
Yeah,
down here.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So we reduce that anxiety through predictability. I'm going back to this. I don't want it to be a podcast on displays, but
That's the next week. Yeah.
yeah, but we reduce that anxiety. It switches the executive functioning on in the brain, and then the more accepting of posters out in the real world that don't read from left to right and top to bottom, the more likely to learn. Whereas if we don't have that buffer in place, then they're just never going to take on that information and always resist it. I think we, as well with that is with the predictability. I just wanted to
Hmm.
mention we talk about personal space and body language on our
Yeah.
courses. And I think sometimes we assume a lot from individuals. And if I take that as an example, people stepping into our personal space and intimate space and getting close to us, and
Mm.
certainly work with individuals that will do that. And I think sometimes we make those assumptions that because they're stepping into our space, then they are comfortable with people being in their space.
Mm.
But it doesn't work the same. I think when they step into ours, they have that predictability. They know the reasons why they're stepping into our space and they know they can step away. If we step into theirs, then that unpredictability goes. Why is this individual stepping into my space? So you're more likely to see the defense mechanisms kicking in and the fight and flight.
Mm.
So even little things like that, just because someone gets close to you and gets into your space, doesn't give license for us to step into theirs, because of that predictability. So, as a positive behaviour support, we should always be thinking about body language and personal
Mm.
space, um, even if they do get really close to us sometimes. We should always be mindful of those kind of things. And that's just another example of it.
Well, it is, and it feeds into a theme that's coming out from what we're talking about is that the kind of low arousal. So even in our personal space and body language, being quite predictable in what that's going to look like. That we know the individuals in our service well enough from individual support plans or whatever we've got set up in our services, risk assessments, that we know kind of what's comfortable for the person. And then that feeds into this pre-escalation bit that staff are consistent with their body language, their distances with that individual, that helps to keep the predictability. But for me in services, what can happen is that perhaps people have extremely different approaches. I'm not saying that, we have to be standing exactly the same distance and doing exactly the same body language, but kind of, talking roughly speaking. But if people really are doing such wildly different things, that reduces that predictability. And I think that can cause some arousal, some distress, some uncertainty in, some of the individuals that we work with.
Yeah, and I think a way around that is he's going back to mission statements and policies and things.
Yeah.
And back to our shared values. People want their loved ones treated in a certain way, and we do lists on it all the time, and we get things like care, kindness, love, respect, boundaries, discipline. We all want the same things for our loved ones when they're being cared for, but I think people's priorities change on those things. So I might hold love and kindness and care at the top of my priority list from all the values, whereas my colleague might have respect and boundaries and discipline at the top
Yeah.
of their list. We want all of the same things, but our priorities are slightly different. So as a service, I think we remind everybody about what our mission statement is, what our core values as an organisation are, and this is how we work with individuals to ensure our consistency. Like you might hold respect and respect and discipline at the top of your priority list, but here we have care and kindness at the top of ours. So that's what we do. So always thinking about how we show that through our practice. What is the space between individuals and getting into their personal space? It's all to do with that values and the and what we're putting across to them.
Yeah, it is. And it's really got me thinking like, oh, this topic's actually really massive, isn't it? Because it isn't just a bottom-up approach where people on the shop floor or the service front-facing reception, teachers, care staff, whoever they are, it's not just about the right practice happening. It's actually the consistency, which has to be from the coming from the top down. So we have the right set of values and the right role models to ensure that those bits around pre-escalation are happening. And I know it comes up on loads of my courses actually that we talk about pre-escalation, positive behavior support approaches, and actually a values-based approach being one of the most fundamental ways that we can help to keep people regulated. Because pretty much if we're working from that values-based approach, we're going to hopefully be regulating people with that kindness, support, love, all of those things.
Well, yeah, and but with that as well, if we think about it, like if we go back to team teach training and the why, and relating that to the values, we focus a lot on why do staff do their jobs, and we get the textbook answers like they make a difference to people's lives, give something back. So we get all of those answers in there, and what we want is for the individuals we support to also be there for the same reasons. So it's like to have a safe environment, and that comes up a lot. We create a safe environment for our service users. Our service users come here because it's a safe environment for them. But all of those whys need to meet somewhere, and you're right, it has to come from the top down. If the organisation, the reason why they're doing it doesn't meet the staff's, then
Yeah.
we'll never draw the service users in because it's falling apart already.
Yeah.
We all have to be on the same page. Everybody has to be on the same page, which is why policies are so important. But why am I doing this job? Why are the service users here with me? I want to draw them in. A lot of the time, they just have to be there. But eventually, I want to draw them in. But I have to do that through my values base. And to support with that, then my values based approaches need to be supported by the organizations. So the organization also, and that's creating cultures. And if we create a culture, and I think you're absolutely right in what you say, it is massive because it's everything we do. It's
Yeah.
everything we do. It's huge. I mean, in Team Teach, we talk about the 95% positive behavior supports. It's like 99%. It's massive. It's everything.
And even when you walk into a service, right, part of the pre-escalation bit is that you might meet, I don't know, a site team member, you might meet a receptionist, but yeah, all of those pre-escalation bits emulate off people. Yeah. Um, we've covered loads actually. I'm just sort of thinking it'd be good to do three top tips. I'm thinking about it, and I do say it on courses a fair bit, and I said it at the start of the pod that I do think there is this perception, which is quite true, that we as staff, whatever sector we work in, are busy, stressed, underpaid. We sometimes feel undervalued, and it can be hard to put an investment of time in. But I do believe that it makes such a difference to put the time into these pre-escalation bits and being reactive to situations rather than proactive. It just doesn't work. I've been in it myself. So I think my first top tip is that investment of time. Like it really is worth doing, worth investment, and you do get interest back.
You do, yeah. Further down the line, invest now, and then a few months down the line, you're going to get the
The
interest back
£1
then.
extra.
Yeah, definitely. Um, it is very important, and I agree entirely with you. But as soon as we say time, it's tough, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
where do we get the time? But it kind of filters into my top tip is
Mm,
we we have these reasons why we can't do certain things. Time's always up there, resources, money. Um,
mm,
so all of these things are up there, and what I feel happens sometimes is we're quite prescriptive to staff and telling them what they should do. Okay, well, in this situation, do this. In this situation, do this. What I want to do is empower staff to make decisions themselves. What I hear a lot is, we've tried everything. We tried
mm,
everything. And I know people try a lot of things. So my top tip is to bring all of that in, really, is we're going to empower staff by sitting down in teams, thinking about an individual that the team works with, writing down some of the behaviours that are happening, uh, and what you're trying at the moment, and then pass it to another team or somebody else in the room and get their suggestions written down, and start getting outside eyes looking in, because sometimes we can't see the wood through the trees, and it's good to get some suggestions from other people, um, and just a short activity, and get people's suggestions, and those people that are giving the suggestions, they give their piece of paper to the other people and have a little workshop on what else can we try. That's it. Yeah.
that's a yeah, big great question. What else can we try? What haven't we tried yet? I think mine leads on from that. So you put the time in. One of my top tips: you do the thing. You start to really talk pre-escalation. Like what can we include? And then my last bit really is about that implementation, which is about consistency. I swear that probably consistency is the most used top tip on this podcast. So just cautious to use it, but it really is a thing, is that you can do all the great planning in the world. You can have it written down in your individual support plan for your individuals in your service. But if no one is sticking to it and following things, then actually, the piece of paper could be ripped up. So it is about embedding that consistency in your service, that we have these plans. It's not about rigidity, it is about flexibility somewhat with the plans, but just making sure that it's happening. Holding each other accountable for those things that we've put our time into to try and make things better. But if we're not doing it consistently, sorry, it's going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah, great.
Oh, I feel like we solved that one again today. That's great.
Solved everything, fixed it.
And my favorite moment was our profound moment that, yeah, the end is actually the beginning. Maybe we should leave the podcast with that thought.
Yeah, the end is the beginning.
The end is the beginning. But thank you so much for your time today, Dave, and we'll catch up soon.
No worries. I'll speak to you soon, Claire. Nice to see you. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Team Teach podcast. It's been great to have you here with us as we discuss behaviour, communication, and the ways we can best support those in our care. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.